Whether reason will prevail depends only partly upon us. We must hope and strive for the best. We must prepare for the worst.
Welcome to this episode of Clearer Than Truth. Today, we're joined by Jeffrey Sachs. Mr. Sachs is a professor at Columbia University and previously served as special advisor to the UN Secretary-General. He's also the author of numerous best-selling books on economic policy and global affairs. On this episode, we discuss U.S. standing in the world, the role of AI and automation on everyday Americans, and the future of U.S. foreign policy in a multipolar world. Mr. Sachs, thanks for joining Clearer Than Truth.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We were interested to learn that you've recently said and stated that overspending has led to a problem with our U.S. trade system. Do you think that Trump's acknowledgement that the trade landscape needed to change was a welcome move for the sake of our global trading relationships?
No, I don't think trade is the issue. I think if you run huge budget deficits, if you borrow nonstop to make tax cuts or to waste money on wars, you end up with large trade deficits. If you then blame trade deficits on the nefarious actions of others, you expose economic ignorance and you create a lot of turmoil in the world. So I don't think anything Donald Trump has done in this regard is very helpful.
Fair enough. But the tariffs, which are less than a year old, are they not reducing the trade deficit?
I doubt it. And they went down in October, went back up in November. I mean, this is not how you run a $30 trillion economy, looking month to month. This just is not real economic policy. This is baby stuff. And by the way, carried out by a bunch of economic illiterates, I'm sorry to say.
Well, I'm interested kind of on the what we might call the political economy of the tariff. I think you've really been quite innovative in your thinking about how to generate peace internationally. And would you say that there's been something of a peace dividend to the threat of tariff, that the United States can induce, countries to change their policy to avoid, engaging in conflict or producing national security threats for us? Is that at all the case, or no? Or
are you kidding?
I'm just asking a question.
We're about to have a war in the Middle East within hours or days that could be so disastrous and devastating that it's hard for us to even calibrate it. We don't have a peace orientation in the United States. We have nonstop bullying right now. We kidnapped the president of another country. I liked the fact, in quotation marks, that Bessent, our supposed Treasury Secretary, but he's our hitman in the Treasury, described how the goal was to bring people out on the streets and into chaos in Iran. That's not a peace agenda. This is a war agenda. So I'm quite worried about our war agenda. I don't see any dividends of instability. And unfortunately, with all seriousness, there's a lack of economic literacy in all of this. There's a lack of understanding that economic problems that a country faces are actually probably requiring of 10 or 15 or 20 years time horizon and perspectives to solve. These are not short-term transactional, I punch you in the nose and then you sign on the bottom line. We're not dealing with problems that are deals. We're dealing with problems that are deeply structural and very complicated, actually, to deal with, but treating them as, that I'm going to punch you in the nose and we're going to solve this issue. And we're basically saying that one person, contrary to a constitutional order, on a whim can say, well, 100% tariff on you and 500% tariff on you, and I don't like you, and I'm going to put a tariff on your wine, and you've insulted me, and how dare you do this? This is a level of instability I've never seen in American policymaking in my lifetime. I do not think there's a method to it. I think there's only a madness to it. And I don't think that it behooves any major economy or society to behave in this extremely unstable and haphazard manner. And so I'm very worried about it.
Well, so let's talk about this. You're saying that these things are 10, 20-year structural issues. Where did we go wrong over the last 10 to 20 years? Because it's not just today. The rise of Trump was obviously because of something. There was a cause within the U.S. population, but also even then the populism that in part led to things like Brexit. What did the global elites get wrong over the last 20 years? Especially considering the sense that heading into 2000 and 2001, that there was sort of this world order that was stable, globalization would spread, trade would lift all boats. What went wrong and where?
I think if you look at the U.S. economy, which is complicated enough for us to deal with, there are three basic facts that we should understand. One is that the long changes of technology, and especially the rise of smart machines, automation that began already decades ago, but now with the AI-backed automation, there's been a deep and very significant shift of national income, what we call functional income distribution, from labor to capital. Interestingly, the Bureau of Labor Statistics just reported the share of labor in total business output in the third quarter of 2025, and it was 53%, if I have it correctly, and that was the lowest ever recorded. What's happened is the labor share of income has gone down from the mid-60s in the 1960s and 70s to around 53% right now. That is a societal earthquake, but it's tremors that have taken place over a 40-year period. It's deep, it's technological, it's not unique to the United States. It is the phenomenon of smart machines replacing people in the labor market, driving down labor demand. It's fundamentally why working class people, feel like shit in our country. They can't afford things, but it's also why the stock market's booming fundamentally. It's not the only reason, but income has shifted to capital. And this is a very big deal and a very deep phenomenon. So that's number one. Number two is we have an incredibly corrupted political system that is driven by lobbying, of course. And we've created very high cost monopolies, or not monopolies, but oligopolies across almost all of our major sectors. Healthcare is so out of sight, out of priced, out of control in this country that if you have to go to a doctor, first you need an MD, PhD to understand where you're going to go, what the payments are, whether it's within your system, not in your system, how it's going to work. Nobody in this world can actually manage this right now. And so our health costs are twice, unit by unit, procedure by procedure, of any other place in the world. So this adds to the first element. We've kind of parceled up the economy, and Congress is a swamp. It's unbelievable how they won't touch anything structural in any different area. So that's the second problem, to my mind. It compounds the first problem. The third problem is we became completely the military-industrial state that Eisenhower warned us about back in 1961. I'm just amazed not only that he said it, but I'm impressed that a general, and he was a great general, was so clear, bold, and prescient in telling us we have a problem, which is that the military-industrial state has taken over our democracy. The only thing wrong with his speech of January 17th, 1961, is that he stated it as a risk, not as a already dominant reality. And to my mind, this is the basis on which we have been fighting nonstop wars everywhere. It's just out of control. And CIA has been out of control basically since 1947. And if you put a Hegseth on top of this and a Trump on top of that, my God, I don't know. We'll be lucky to get through all of this. So those are the three fundamental points. If we thought about them, it would take a huge work. In places that I work, governments actually think about these things. They study them. What we have is, we have extraordinarily short term. It's not even now, it's just a farce. Donald Trump says, we have the greatest military in the world. I made it. Biden wrecked it. Now I made it. Okay. If you had a concept like that, which is not one that I share, but greatest military in the world and Biden had wrecked it, you might say 20 years of rebuilding, serious effort, attention to technology, to organization. No, we play a game as if this is 15 minutes and I fix this, and I make an order and I fix that. This is not reality. This is a game show. And we really have too high stakes to be in a game show.
Right. I certainly take your point about grandstanding. One thing I've always been interested in is the kind of connection between our spending on military and the sustenance of the global economy, because so much of what the U.S. does as the largest military power, I would say, is provide stability to the global, for example, trading system. Is there a dividend that you think we're delivering to the rest of the world through this significant spending in our military that we should include in that calculus that you just described in terms of?
Look, we're not providing stability, unfortunately. You could imagine that we might if we believed in it. But if the president puts on not only economically illiterate reciprocal tariffs, which I can only tell you, you wouldn't even pass a first-year trade student with the paper that the USTR put out. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. It's absurd. But that's not stability. If you are engaged in constant regime change operations, overthrowing people, assassinating other people, bringing people out onto the streets, destroying other economies, that's not stability. We're creating a wall of instability. Can I read, by the way, because I hold it by my side now every day since Besant said it. So this wasn't premeditated for our talk. But he's asked at Davos about sanctions. And he says, President Trump ordered Treasury and our OFAC division, Office of Foreign Asset Control, to put maximum pressure on Iran. And it's worked, because in December, their economy collapsed. We saw a major bank go under. The central bank has started to print money. There is a dollar shortage. They are not able to get imports. And this is why the people took to the streets. So this is economic statecraft. No shots fired. And things are moving in a very positive way here. You can't even believe this. If you read it in a comic book or you heard it on a movie screen, you would say, come on.
It seems to me that you think that the status quo of Iran trying to become hegemon in the Middle East is better than...
George, I don't accept that as the characterization at all.
But how is the United States... Well, how is the United States failing to intervene and stop the Iranian government from having more financial assets? Is this honestly like an entirely foolhardy policy? I mean,
I was referencing your comment that we're creating stability. So we're not creating stability. We may be creating war. We may be creating hegemony or whatever it is they think, but we're not creating stability. When it comes to Iran, they've tried for 15 years to negotiate with us. They want the sanctions lifted. This goes back to 2012 onward. We had the JCPOA. We had absolutely detailed negotiations over everything. Trump came in and ripped them up. To understand Iran, understand the head of Bibi Netanyahu. And then a question that I don't have a full answer is, how the hell is it that Israel runs our foreign policy? I don't really know, even though there are countless theories about it. But nothing that we're doing with Iran makes sense. And I've met with the Iranian president many times. I've talked to Iranian leaders many times. They have wanted negotiations. And we say two things. Oh, they want to negotiate? How weak they are, how pathetic. And second, we don't want to negotiate with these people. We want to overthrow them. That's Bibi. So I don't think that we're doing anything that serves our interests. I don't think anything that Netanyahu has told his followers in the United States who are subject to that lobby has ever proved right, not one thing. Of course, he said Iran would get a nuclear bomb before the end of the 20th century. That was his first gambit. He told us how wonderful the war in Iraq would be because that would bring democracy to Iran. He peddled us overthrowing the government of Syria. That's turned out to be great. He peddled us overthrowing the government of Libya. That's turned out to be just wonderful. Mossad broke apart Sudan. That's been a joy. That one's a double winner. We have two civil wars, the one in the old Sudan and the one in the new Sudan. So no, I don't think we're an agent of stability right now. And we don't do ourselves any favor. And the truth is, the people in charge in this country are pretty happy with everything, how it's going. I don't think they're feeling unhappy about it because the underlying fact is right, that if you are rich and powerful in this country, it's a pretty good run. It's just a smaller and smaller segment of the American people. Most American people feel like shit. They think the country's way in the wrong direction. But if you are the Davos crowd, you feel great. Stock market's never been higher. Things are booming. We're in charge. We get to bully whoever we want. But I don't think anything's going in the right direction.
It sounds very Two Americas from like 2004, John Edwards. Look, Mr. Sachs,
by the way, it is in. I don't know if it's two. It's actually three because there are about 10 people that are a third America. They own almost $3 trillion of wealth. They own the White House. They own the Pentagon. So we've entered a new phase of Musk and friends that is really quite different from the past because we privatized we privatized our national defense now is more dependent on SpaceX than SpaceX is on our national defense. So in this sense, I think it's three Americas, but the two Americas is not a slogan. It's written into the life expectancy of Americans. And the gap is just absolutely extraordinary. And now we have the phenomena that our politics are breaking apart because of this. It's frightening.
Will the UN survive with a board of peace?
Trump's trying to kill the UN. And things are hanging in the balance right now.
I want to come back to how we get out of this, but I want to briefly hit on a few things you mentioned. Yep. Automation, the corrupt political system, military-industrial complex. None of these are new. People have lost jobs and worried about automation and the advancement of technology for a long time. And despite that, we've had success in the 90s, the early 2000s. Do you think that the advancements in automation and technology could level out to, yes, jobs will be lost, but jobs will also be created. Do you think that this could level out so that it could help the middle class moving forward? And what needs to be done to do that?
No. I mean, I'm a big believer in technological advance. I think it's the most important driver of change and real economic well-being. But the big lessons of history are that these changes really hit societies in very stark and uneven ways. And the role of politics is to make sure that the society doesn't fall apart in the process. And so it's not going to be the case that things will work out, that new jobs will be created, and you'll get a rebalancing through what you might broadly call market forces, only through politics, if the politics works. Right now, our politics does not work in any way. But the market forces are going to get a lot worse dramatically, because AI is so good and it's advancing so fast that who knows what jobs, including my own and yours, are going to last in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years from now. And the returns to labor, so-called, they're plummeting. And you can see even, a college degree doesn't get you anything anymore.
That's interesting. But what should the government be doing to prepare and to help us transition to the age of AI?
Suppose that Elon is right, and I think he is right in certain ways, that robots are going to make robots, and robots are going to do a lot of the work or most of the work. And so we're going to have an age of abundance. That, I think, has an important measure of truth to it. But the abundance for who? If you do that rollout on a market basis, well, Elon will get his $1 trillion paycheck, and his net worth will go into the trillions. And large swaths of the world will be rendered utterly helpless and impoverished in that. And so that's a direction that is possible. That's not kind of evening out that they're going to find other jobs to do. So the way that would be, in my view, normally addressed is if we're in abundance, you make sure that there's a decent life for everybody in your society. And an obvious way to do that Europe figured out 100 years ago and the United States still hasn't figured out is when you go to the doctor, you don't ask whether you're in network, out of network, who gave you the authorization, who gets to charge $8,000 for an MRI, and so forth. You have a public system in some sense. You're just, as a citizen, you get health care. It turns out to be much cheaper. You get better health outcomes, and it is, derided in the United States as awful. But I've lived all over the world, and it's not awful at all. It's just kind of normal. Something that is almost unimaginable in the United States. In fact, of course, Ayn Rand, went after it directly, is social housing. We think of social housing as, some horrible tenement for impoverished people of color in a dangerous neighborhood, and so on. Go to Vienna. Go to Hong Kong. About 80% of people live in, quote, social housing in Hong Kong, which is, by the way, a glorious place, really remarkable and wonderful and clever and interesting. But the idea that you're completely dependent on your own wage for your housing is not correct conceptually or correct in the way that it's actually managed almost anywhere. So we have a lot of shibboleths in the United States. The market will solve the problem. And markets are very good at certain things. They're quite good at generating wealth. They're quite good at generating innovation, though actually not by themselves, but they're lousy at ensuring that somehow the society holds together or people are able to make ends meet. And so this, I think, is kind of basics of our politics that I don't know if we'll ever get right, because we're born in the image of John Locke, which is a very different kind of economics. It wasn't Karl Marx that invented the labor theory of value. It was John Locke that invented the labor theory of value. And his idea, which was very popular when basically we were an agrarian society and we could take all the land we wanted from Native Americans, was that you're on your own and go mix your labor with this ever-abundant land, and you own it. And that was Lockean property theory. We hold to that until today.
Go ahead, George.
Wouldn't you say it's a closer, kind of parallel to say that you should have some relationship to those things that you produce, right? That you have, kind of a moral imperative to, own those things that you actually manufacture. And I ask this question because that to me seems to be the actual heuristic link between Locke and Marx. And I think it has a lot to do with the frustration of folks about how globalization turned out and why, China's dominance in the manufacture of low value goods is so frustrating to me.
Yeah, but it's not
right?
globalization, it's technology. And China has mastered these technologies, but they're doing it by the way, in an extremely clever way. I've been to a number of Chinese factories recently. Just to let you know, there are no workers in them. I went to actually several factories in the last few years that essentially have no workers. They didn't take our jobs. What they are doing is applying AI, robotics, very smart processing, highly competitive domestic markets, and technology policy to make what's called generational improvements of technology, but they're doing it at an annual scale, annual time scale. So they are not taking our jobs, they're taking our markets, they're taking the competition, but it's not a matter of low-wage jobs in China. There aren't jobs. You don't need them in manufacturing anymore. And we're not going to need them in agriculture, and we're not going to need them in mining. We're just not going to need these jobs. And then we're going to have to confront, well, what are we going to do in our society? And what are we going to do when the so-called marginal product of labor, which is a pretty good measure of what leads to a wage level, plummets because the work is being taken over by an extremely clever machine. And the machines in the next 5 years are going to become a lot more clever than they are right now. And the humanoid robots are going to add to this, and those are going to come from China as well.
Well, I have one final question because I know we're at time, but if you're looking into the future, 5 years, 10 years, how does the U.S. stand in the world, and how does the average U.S. worker and middle class person stand in the world? And what hope, if any, exists for both U.S. status and a normal person?
Very good question. We are in already a multipolar world, meaning there are several major powers, several great powers. The United States, Russia, China, and India are indisputably great powers. What that means is that they have a scale of economy, of technology, of military, especially nuclear forces, that they can't be defeated by the others. And that gives them a very major say and role in the world. The U.S. thought in December 1991 it was alone in the world. I always wished, frankly, that our strategists would get out and see the world a little bit, because my whole life has been viewing things largely from outside the United States, because I'm an itinerant international economist, so I travel nonstop. And I could tell you already in 1992, the idea that this was the unipolar world or Madeleine Albright's indispensable world and indispensable nation and so forth was extraordinarily naive. I was watching China go up before my eyes. I wrote a book 30 years ago showing what China's ascent would be, because you can make pretty good forecasts on a 30-year horizon. On a 3-month horizon, it's completely hazardous. But if you look at underlying trends, you can do much better looking at 30 years. And it was clear that that unipolar moment of the United States was delusional already back then. It's completely delusional now. But in Washington, they don't know it yet. In Washington, they're still fighting for American hegemony. They're fighting for dominance. How do we contain China? Russia still is a third-rate country, et cetera, et cetera. What can we do to get India on our side? All of these things, we need some grown-ups desperately. We need some grown-ups that understand the world, that don't view the world with hostility, but with open eyes, that understand that we are already in a multipolar world. None of that, I want to say, is bad. None of it is terrifying. I absolutely believe, not 99.99%, but 100%, China is not invading the United States. We are not threatened by China at all. We're not threatened by China at all. So my view is, let's learn to live like grown-ups. There's a big world. There is not a zero-sum game. It is not us versus them. We're not like Hitler struggling for Lebensraum, that, there's not enough to go around, so only the master race will survive. All of these ideas are wrong, dead wrong. We could actually be in an age of abundance because the technology is that good. We actually could be in an age where it's not crazy to say everyone should have a decent place to live and everyone should have decent health care. That's not some radical, stupid theory. That's actually what our technology could allow. But that requires that we get ICE off the streets, we stop shooting our citizens, and we stop going to war abroad, and we get back to the serious idea that we need to actually work, plan, and invest over the next 10 to 20 years as a country, stop fighting wars, make America great again, start rebuilding our infrastructure. Just a little hint, I ride Chinese fast rail all the time. There are 50,000 kilometers of fast rail. There is not 1 kilometer of fast rail in the United States. And Donald Trump made fun of Gavin Newsom for scaling back the fast rail project in California. He thinks it's fun to attack our own country for not being able to achieve a project that China already has 50,000 kilometers of. So I want us to just stop our incessant focus on what the others are doing and get back to building America. This was a good idea, but we're not doing that. We're going to war after war after war right now.
Okay. Jeffrey Sachs, thank you so much for joining Clearer Than Truth.
Yeah, my pleasure to be with you guys. Thank you.
Thanks again for joining this episode of Clearer Than Truth. Be sure to subscribe and share with your friends.